Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Javeria Raza Alvi, pediatric neurologist from the Children's Hospital and University of Childhood Sciences, Lahore. I'm working under the mentorship of Professor Tipu Sultan. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Pakistan Society of Neurology and the Pakistan Headache Society for giving me the opportunity to talk over here. So I'm going to briefly touch about the practical approach to pediatric headache disorders. So I do not have any disclosure with this talk, and this is the outline that I'm going to talk about. Headache is one of the most common cause of missed school days in children, and they cause disease-causing morbidity in children very commonly. According to this Institute of Health Metric Evaluation on the Global Burden of Disease 2019, migraine was the second largest burden with greater years lived with disability, and this equally pertains to children. Headache had gained consideration after the Lifting the Burden campaign because of the considerable physical, social, and cognitive impact of this disorder, not only on adults but children. And when I talk about children, I would just suggest that we are not dealing with one patient, we are actually dealing with two. One is the patient and one is the parent who's coming in and bringing in the child again and again. So we are actually dealing with two patients and one background. Talking about the epidemiology, much has already been discussed that the overall prevalence of headache, if I talk about in the pediatric population, it varies from region to region, but approximately it's between 30 to 40%, while some areas report a higher prevalence, and 30% come in with recurrent episodes. So what we did was that we actually did a survey which was named as CHIPS, Childhood Headache in Pakistan Survey, and we actually interviewed the school students in the first year to know whether we need a proper childhood headache program or not. And so we interviewed 1,200 students in the school aged 8 to 15, and that revealed that 40% were in those children, they were having headaches. Sometimes they were telling about it, sometimes they were ignoring, but they were so disconsolate and they wanted immediate cure to this agonizing disorder. And then the second tier was the observed need, that which we distributed a 5 questionnaire survey to the physicians, general pediatricians and physicians, and we wanted to know how much frequently they are seeing headache in their clinics, and we found that they were seeing 82% of patients coming in with headache either as a primary complaint or a secondary complaint. And that is when they agreed upon that pediatric headache medicine should be started as a specialty. So this tells us about a significant burden of this disorder and even in the children. So just as a general approach, a child who's coming in with recurrent headache, we all know that we need to classify either it is primary or it is secondary. Primary headache, the most common headache that we see is the migraine, mostly without aura, because maybe the kids are not able to tell their symptoms of aura, but aura is better defined by adolescent kids. Tension type headache and cluster headache we see very less as compared to the migraine. And we all know the pathophysiology, that the hypersensitivity of the CNS, the cortical spreading depolarization, and all the activation of the trigeminal pathway that is actually causing the migraine headaches. On the other side, if a kid is coming in with headache, we specifically rule out first the secondary headache. So the red flags that come in children that we need to see are: is it a new onset headache? Is this headache waking the child up at night? Is it more occipitally? Is it in a less than 6 years old child? We need to investigate first to rule out the secondary cause. Then is it coming with focal deficit? Is it associated with postural variations? Is it thunderclap? Or is there any abnormal finding in the examination? This is more or less the same as in with adults, but age less than 6 years, abnormal fundoscope examination, again just like in adults. So these are more pertinent to red flags. And then after, when we have defined that if it is a red flags, and then we have to review and reassess either it's a primary headache or it's a secondary headache, and then offer specific treatment. So this is a broad summary of headaches divided into primary and secondary. We have talked about the primary. We don't see this group much commonly, and TAC has been excellently described by Professor Esther Noman sir. So we usually, the group that is coming with primary headache disorder in our clinics is the migraine group. But we also see secondary headaches a lot, in which we have either infections, and it is not just the CNS infection. They are having a viral infection or sinusitis, they're coming in with a bad headache that do not require a preventative treatment. Because, so knowing what is the cause of headache is very important in children, because if we are planning to give them a preventative treatment, such a long time of treatment, these are kids actually, so we need to see whether they need a preventative treatment or not. So for that, categorization into primary and secondary is important. Then we have vascular causes, structural causes, SOLs, traumas, and other causes, especially the benign intracranial hypertension that needs to be excluded. Again, the history is very important, as told by Dr. Khalid in his talk. The onset, the duration, the type, quality of headache. So the type, quality of headache, I would say children are, they're not very much aware, and they cannot tell their symptoms so precisely as the adults do. So the quality, I'm going to come how we can ask them to tell us about the quality of headache. But again, a good examination is very important. So just a mnemonic for Snoop for the red flags. So if we have systemic signs and symptoms, if we have neurological abnormalities, sudden onset, here the age is 60 years because I took it from the adult group, but in our group, if it is a less than 6 years old child, we should investigate. And then progression of the disease and the 3 Ps, the positional change, precipitations, and the papilledema, we need to investigate. This is the, so I'm going to go on the primary headaches now. So migraine, this is the ICHD-3 classifications. Even in children, the only difference I would say from the adult is the duration. So in adult, we say it's 4 to 72 hours. In children, we say it's 2 to 72 hours. Usually in adults, they have unilateral headaches, but in children, we also see bifrontal headaches as a common feature of migraine. Apart from this, all of the criteria is more or less the same. This is the difference between the migraine tension dimer cluster. As I already told that we usually do not see this group much, but this is the pattern of migraine. It can be bilateral. It ranges from mild to severe. Tension is moderate in intensity, but cluster is so extremely painful, just like Dr. S. Numan said, it is like a stab in the eye. And it does not last for more than 3 hours. That is very true. What we do is that we try to ask these kids to draw their headaches. So we give them a paper and pen. I've taken this picture from the internet. We do not have color pencils all the time there, but we ask them to draw their headaches, because maybe they cannot put in words, but maybe they can put it in the drawings. So you see this patient headache pattern is like hemicranial. This is like a band. This is like a stab in the head. And this is like going in the sun and having a headache episode. So this is telling us that this is associated with photophobia. So in kids, we sometimes have to tailor our examination and then accordingly chalk out a plan. So there are myths about pediatric migraine. One, that migraine affects adults only. It does affect kids. They outgrow migraine. They may outgrow, but when they are adults actually. Myth number 4 is that they have unilateral pain. It can be bilateral. And myth number 3 is that they have head pain during a migraine attack. So sometimes it's not true. They may not even present with the pain in the head as a first symptom. Sometimes the symptom evolves and then we say that it is a migraine precursor. So I'm going to quickly show 2 cases about this. So we had a 2-year-old female who had come up with recurrent head tilt that started in her early infancy since 10 months of age. The head tilt was accompanied with vomiting, and this always occurred in episodes of 2 to 3 minutes. And then she used to held her forehead and cried. Normally इसको शायद इतनी तवज्जो नहीं दी जाती जब बच्चा सर पे हाथ रखता है. हम कहते हैं शायद अपना symptom explain कर रहा है. But maybe she was rightly touching her head because she was having headache. She had no associated fever, seizures, encephalopathy, and she was normal between the episodes with normal development. Examination was absolutely normal, and all the videos that was seen was actually of head tilt, which was showing that she had torticollis. She was investigated thoroughly with twice MRI, which was normal. There were no lesions in the basal ganglia. The metabolic workup was normal. The fundoscopic examination was normal. So everything, every time was coming up with normal, and she was always admitted. One person thought that it is Spasman's Newton. So Spasman's Newton is seen in infancy with torticollis, head tilt, and nystagmus, but she never had nystagmus. So after following her for almost 1 to 2 years, these episodes ultimately resolved and remitted on their own. So given the stereotype, recurrent episodes and transient head tilt with headache and vomiting, diagnosis of benign paroxysmal torticollis was made, and for last 1 year, she's asymptomatic. So this is actually a early life migraine precursor, which starts in early infancy, peaks around 1 to 2 years, and then it spontaneously resolves by 3 to 5 years. Having knowledge about such episodic syndromes which are associated with migraine in children is important in order to have a proper plan for their follow-up. Maybe they need treatment, maybe they don't need treatment, and they'll automatically outgrow from these. So coming to the second case, this was a 6-year-old boy with recurrent hemiplegic episodes since 2 years of age. So the weakness alternates sides. Sometimes it was on right, sometimes it was on left. One thing that was very surprising was that जब वो सोता था तो he used to move the affected side. खुद से ही. There was no deficit at time when he used to sleep. So this is actually a feature of alternating hemiplegia of childhood. This was associated with dystonia and abnormal eye movements only during the episodes. And between the episodes, the child was always asymptomatic, and over time, because itne zyada episodes se and the diagnosis was made after 2 years of his first symptoms, so he ultimately became a little ataxic. All the workup, extensive neuroimaging, metabolic was all every time negative. He was investigated with the whole stroke workup, it was negative क्योंकि हर दफ़ा उसको hemiplegia हो रहा था. Ultimately, we had to send genetics, and genetics came out to be positive for ATP1A3 gene, which is gene for alternating hemiplegia of childhood, and again, it's an early precursor of migraine in children. So the treatment which is offered in this is flunarizine. So we started him on flunarizine, and his episode frequency reduced. So knowing such etiologies also with genetic complex interplay. So benign torticollis is associated with CACNA-A1, the earlier case. This is associated with ATP1A2 and SCN1A, which is actually a gene of epilepsy but can come with migraine-like features also. So they can give us more insights about these different syndromes which are associated with migraine. I don't know, but if a patient who is adolescent coming in with a migraine, agar unki mother se पूछें that if the child had infantile colic, so most of them will answer yes, because infantile colic, motion sickness, these all are some maybe early symptoms, and then these kids later on have migraines. So these are the episodic syndrome associated with migraine: cyclical vomiting, abdominal migraine, benign paroxysmal vertigo, torticollis, which I've already shown, infantile colic, and alternating hemiplegia of childhood, which in children can sometimes come with different symptoms, but ultimately later on they become migraineurs. So having knowledge of these symptoms are very important also. These are the age groups. So cyclical vomiting, the most important thing is the associated feature, that is the predictable periodicity. Har mahine vomiting aayegi, they will need IV hydration, they'll get admitted, and then they'll have the headache episode and it will improve. Similarly, abdominal migraine, all the organic causes will be negative, workup will be negative, and ultimately they'll be given of the diagnosis of migraine. So normally इनको diagnosis of exclusion ही दिया जाता है. So coming to the now approach, just a basic approach, already have been talked a lot, which medication should be given and when to be given. So whenever a kid is coming, let's suppose an adolescent kid is coming to you, and as an initial presentation as headache, we need to see whether it is primary or secondary. So we need to see the red flags, and if there are red flags, we need to image them with MRI, preferentially with contrast, and then accordingly provide the disease-specific treatment. And if it is normal, then we may label them as primary headache diagnosis. Always remember episodic syndromes with migraine, which can come in their early life, and now they are full-blown having migraine attacks. So the plan is the same. We have to give them acute treatment. We have to decide who to give preventative treatment, and then lifestyle modifications. Acute treatment should be given in a written and a methodological treatment plan, and they should be asked to maintain a headache diary in order to know how many episodes have improved with medications. Again, trial of NSAIDs alone with naproxen, brufen, acetaminophen, or if there is no response, triptans can be added. Triptans can be given alone. Triptans can be given in combination. If nausea is very predominant and vomiting is there, just like Dr. Abel asked, we may give them antiemetics in order to control the vomiting and then give them NSAIDs. And then if one triptan is ineffective, you can, at full dose, then you can switch to another triptan before saying that it is a failure. What does evidence say about giving them a single drug or combined drug? So there are different studies which have been telling, but as a whole, ibuprofen is more effective in treating the acute attack. Combination of naproxen and sumatriptan has also a good efficacy even in children. FDA has already approved these 4 drugs in children. The rizatriptan is the drug that can be given under 6. And we can repeat triptan after 2 hours in pediatric age group if the first dose has not effectively worked. I had done an observership in pediatric headache at University of Kentucky with under mentorship of Dr. Sharon Kaiser. He used to say, hit it hard and hit it fast is the key in order to abort the headache episode. If you start giving acute treatment after 1 hour, it's not going to work. The headache is going to take the complete, it's going to finish its complete course and then it's going to subside. So hit it hard and hit it fast is the key in acute treatment. Regarding the preventative treatment, if the episodes of, we're dealing with kids, so we actually are very much sure before starting a preventative treatment that if the kid needs or not, because फिर उसको daily medicine लेनी पड़ेगी, he has to go to school and he's a kid after all. So compliance का issue आ जाता है in kids. So we have to ascertain if there are more than 4 attacks or if it is a disabling attack requiring frequent ED visit. If the PEDMIDAS score is pediatric migraine disability assessment score is more than 20 because that's leading to missed school days. And if there are specific migraine variants, then we start the preventative treatment. These are all the drugs that can be given in the preventative treatment with topiramate, valproate, amitriptyline, propranolol, flunarizine, and botulinum toxin are being given in children. This is the PEDMIDAS score, pediatric disability migraine score. So we do ask them to draw their pains. So we know what are we dealing with on the pain score. And then this is a score that we can apply. This tells about the missed school days, half missed school days or full missed school days. And then we plot them according to the chart. So if the score is more than 20, we start them on preventative treatment. So what does the evidence say? दवाइयाँ बहुत सारी हैं. What should we start? So topiramate resulted in significant reduction in disability with migraine, and the 3-arm trial that was done over 24 weeks, which compared amitriptyline with topiramate and placebo, showed that there were no differences and they were equally effective. Then there was another trial between valproate and propranolol. They also showed that there was no identifiable difference. There was a CHAMP trial done in 2017 between amitriptyline over placebo and topiramate. Showed no benefit over placebo. And then there was a study with flunarizine which showed 50% reduction. So I would say that it's individualized decision which drug that we choose. Normally in kids, if the kid is a thin lean child, we wouldn't choose topiramate because it's gonna cause weight loss. So choosing the drug is very important. If a kid has mood disorders, sleep disorder is more than 8 years old, we might choose amitriptyline. It's going to counteract the migraine and the sleep and mood disorder. So it's again an individualized decision. So status migrainosus was talked about by Dr. Khalid also, that it's a debilitating migraine attack lasting for more than 72 hours. We also see kids coming in with such episodes. But if it is a new onset headache, we need to investigate. We give ketorolac, prochlorperazine is not available in IV form. So if the vomiting has settled, we give them orally and then IV bolus, and then once they improve, we give them a stat shot of dexamethasone in order to provide the recurrence. And then IV, so this, I've taken this algorithm from by the courtesy of Dr. Kaiser from University of Kentucky. So he's following this protocol over their department with much efficacy in status migrainosus. So what they do is also start continuous infusion of valproate after getting the baselines, and then also they see the target levels. And in extreme situation when the attack is not aborting at all, so they also give dihydroergotamines before checking. They do get a cardiology complete workup. So lifestyle modification is very important. Sleep, meals, adequate hydration, regular exercise, and triggers. So SMART is the word. Apart from giving them acute treatment and preventative, the lifestyle modifications are equally important. So in conclusion, pediatric headache is a prevalent condition even in children, leads to missed school days and years lived with disability. The primary culprits are often primary headaches and viral infections. Migraine is the most common headache that we see in kids. Initial assessment in children is very important to differentiate between primary and secondary headaches. And newer modalities like neurostimulation, Botox, and CGRP antibodies are also promising in emergent therapies, although they've been trying in adults, not in children, but we do expect that they will be having promising results even in children. These are the beautiful people of my department at the Children's Hospital Lahore under the mentorship of Professor Tipu Sultan. Although too early, But on the left side, we are hosting the 18th Asian and Oceanian Congress of Child Neurology in Lahore, Pearl Continental, on 25th to 28th March 2027. है 2027 पे, but time तो दौड़ रहा है. It's gonna come in just a blink of the eye. So we welcome, I on the behalf of Pediatric Neurology Department welcome you all to grace this event as it's an international one. Thank you very much.